Welcome back, Space Cases. Space Cadet here. Today in our continuing series, Are We There Yet?, we're going to be covering Standard Year 1001 to Standard Year 1402. So let's get to it. Standard Year 1001. Let's talk about demographics. The human population of the colonies exceeds 12 billion. The average life expectancy is approximately 90 years. The oldest humans live to 140 thanks to advances in medicine and cybernetics. And by oldest, they actually mean wealthiest. Lemuria has a population of around 8 billion, Inferion 4 billion, Vanger about 3 million, including shipyard personnel. Nice's population's hovering around 500,000. Mayu has about 250,000. Epitaph 50,000, and the Citadel has around 25,000. Atlantean colony CS2 ships have about 200,000 bodies. Technology. Advances in medicine and cybernetics continue to focus on extending lives in old age versus slowing down the aging process. Regardless, death rates continue to drop. EFRD develops an experimental drive that travels at an incredible 50% of the speed of light, called a 2-to-1 drive, or roughly the speed at which the rich accumulate wealth. Private space travel in the Lemurian system is affordable to the masses. Regular, if slow, travel between Mayu and Lemuria is established on government-sponsored transports. Travel for the average citizen takes approximately 75 years, versus 30 years for the elites. So all those families that were separated to form the new colonies can finally be reunited, even if it's just in cemeteries. Civilization achieves a utopian peak, eliminating poverty and hunger throughout human society. But the castes remain entrenched and conflicts over rights become more prominent. The solution, as it turns out, was terribly simple. Anyone that was poor or homeless was quietly killed. Problem solved. Ferial City on Inferion becomes the second megacity, and additional megacities begin forming on Lemuria. Colonization of Epitaph, the moon of eulogy, in the Mayun system begins through paraterraforming, concurrent with ongoing terraforming efforts. At the urging of Mayun elites, the system's governance remains in the hands of the EF. The unions arise, with the EFMC overextended elsewhere and the CDF largely focused on quelling various resistance movements. The Mercenary Union is formed to identify and protect private interests in the Lemurian system. Many laborers, including miners and shipwrights, unionize. Piracy takes root in the Lemurian system as private enterprise develops, because there are obviously so many unregistered spaceships around. Rumors circulate that some of these pirates are of alien origin, but most consider such talk to be nothing more than tall tales, because that's ridiculous. There are no such things as aliens. There are persistent rumors of kidnappings for space travel, but none are substantiated. Kidnappings for space travel? Standard Year 1050. The CS2 ships arrive in the Atlantean system. Granted, no one knows but them, and fewer people care. Diadem, the central star of the system, is average-sized white dwarf. The light it gives off is slightly harsh to human eyes and creates deep shadows in its system. This makes the system less than ideal for photography, and the entire expedition is nearly scrapped. The Atlantean governor divides colonists between the 3 habitable bodies, 2 planets and 1 moon, 80,000 to each planet and 40,000 to the moon. The The settlers begin development in the most moderate areas of each location. Minimal terraforming is necessary, but the settlers use the colony ships to build the first cities in the system. Since there's no reason to keep that old thing around, it's not like anyone's going to go home to pick up something they forgot. Atlantis, the first world orbiting Diadem, has a hot climate. It is approximately 11,000 kilometers in diameter, has a 23-hour day, and a 305-day year. Eidolon, Atlantis' moon, has a breathable atmosphere. It is 2,500 kilometers in diameter and circles its planet every 20 days. Oasis, the second planet, has a temperate climate, is approximately 13,000 kilometers in diameter, has a 24.5-hour day, and a 375-day year. The EF works to uncover the purpose and capabilities of the artificial planet, later to be known as StarNet, orbiting the second planet. Hopes that it was a shave ice stand are quickly dismissed as a brass plaque on the side clearly states, "Not a shave ice stand." The flora and fauna in the system are often dramatically colored. The EF attributes this to the harsh light given off by Diadem. Native creatures are often cunning and vicious, but no truly sentient life is found, not even among the colonists. A Stygian gate and a second dormant solar collection unit are found in orbit of Diadem. The EF establishes a space station base known as Citadel Station Valor on the edge of the system. It orbits a small gas giant named Mirage. The EF discovers signs of Mazukai, Stygian, and a third previously unknown civilization, thereafter known as the Thursaz, on Atlantis, Oasis, and Eidolon. There is further evidence of a significant war having taken place. Initially, it was believed the war was fought over control of the TV remote, but later evidence suggested that the three races were too primitive to have invented TV. Standard year 1100. Precursor megacorporations begin to emerge in the Lemurian system. A habitable ring is built around the equator of Nyssa in a joint venture between the GOL and private enterprises. Many of the habitation facilities are built like the original conical facilities produced by the EF, though every other one points into space. Nyssa is nicknamed Spire by the miners, and over time, numerous other spires will be added to the surface and interior of the moon. The EF maps the interior of Nyssa, which strangely looks like a bunch of cones. No shave ice is discovered. Regular travel between Atlantis and Lemuria is established on government-sponsored transports. Travel between the systems takes about 100 years for the average citizen and 40 years for elites. But we call it regular, even though it still takes a lifetime, or half a lifetime if you're rich. The Atlantean system sees a surge in immigration based on the reported alien beauty and easy habitation of the planets in the system, as millions seek to get away from the oppression of the GOL in the home system. And since it's only 100 years away, you'll have plenty of time to be away from the oppressive core. An office is set up on Eidolon to handle the influx. It's staffed by one person who dies before any immigrants arrive. Organized crime, especially piracy, spreads to Mayun and the Atlantean system, because let's face it, organized crime is way better than the government. LEF-COG launches the first probes into what will later be called the Expanse, and begins to consider the next phase of colonization just as humanity has completed its first step out of the Lemurian Creech. And let's face it, we can't keep saying we've overcome poverty and homelessness unless we find new places to dump the poor and the homeless. Standard year 1200. Vanger is terraformed insofar as it has a breathable atmosphere. The surface temperature around the equatorial region hovers around 15.5 degrees Celsius. That's 60 degrees Fahrenheit for you heathens. As the ice from Nyssa melts on the surface of Vanger, 3 large continents emerge, surrounded by the newly formed oceans. Large forests of bioengineered coniferous trees cover the surface. Private paraterraforming is made available for the right price. If you have to ask, you can't afford it. The habitable ring of Nysa is connected to the northern and southern spires via a train that runs under the ice. The trains do indeed run on time and are powered by the tears of the inhabitants. The Atlantean system is mapped because it takes an interstellar species 150 years to map a solar system. Standard year 1300. Mayu is terraformed. The equatorial surface temperature hovers around 5 degrees centigrade. That's 40 degrees Fahrenheit for you uneducated savages. This temperature is daylight temperature, and it drops to freezing in the evening hours. Snow regularly falls on the planet, and Spectre's luminescence bathes everything in a faint red light during the day. 5 large continents are revealed. As with Vanger, large forests of bioengineered coniferous trees cover much of the surface. Under the direction of the GOL, the EF turns over administration of the Mayan system. A governor is appointed by the GOL. The EF builds a permanent base around the largest Stygian archaeological sites and studies their technology, which appears more advanced than either the Mazukai or the Therisaz, found in the Atlantean system. Colonies develop on the interior of Nysa. Dreisel, the capital of Vanger, becomes a megacity. Standard year 1400. Epitaph is terraformed. It is the last of the original 9 colonies to be terraformed. Epitaph has almost no axial tilt and no seasons. The temperate zone surface temperature hovers around 5 degrees Celsius continuously. There's no conversion for you savages. 3 continents are revealed in that temperate zone, all of which have large forests, but unlike the other terraformed worlds, the flora here take on distinct characteristics of the moon. Pirates begin attacking space lanes between systems because there are so many unregistered spaceships out there now. The EF engages with an unidentified alien craft outside the Atlantean system. The engagement was cut short when it was determined by the aliens' parents that the EF were fascists. The reinforcement of Citadel Station Valor begins based on strategic vulnerability assessments. Nisan City, the original mining camp that formed on the far side of the moon, becomes a megacity. All of the major planetary settlements in the Lemurian system now have megacities. The first satellite surveys return from the expanse. Standard year 1402. Miners on Object 1386, an asteroid in the Lemurian system, are exposed to what is believed to be a store of Stygian biological weapons. Within hours, many unwittingly fall victim to what is deemed the Red Plague. Some possibly even wittingly. The disease is characterized by broken blood vessels, creating large red patterns on the victim's skin, especially along the circulatory system, where blood vessels are often found. The victim perishes in hours, but the body continues to move until it decays, usually within a month. This creates a problem for health insurance companies who have to carry policies on people who are dead but still able to visit clinics for care. The disease is spread through bodily fluids, which is why you never kiss them on the mouth. The CDF responds, but many fall victim to the plague. The standard tactic of beating people with clubs until they bleed proved to help transmit the disease to CDF personnel. Efforts to isolate fail. A contaminated ship lands on Nysa, and within hours, the disease is spread to various megacities and throughout the Lemurian system. Mainly because the walking dead are hard to distinguish from other wage slaves in the core. A series of quarantines are made and broken throughout the Lemurian system. While vaccines are developed over the span of years, elites are inoculated first, deepening the schism in classes. as would be expected, since it's critical we save them so they can watch the wage slaves perish. The poorest of humans are left to the ravages of the disease, as priority for the vaccine is given to the elites and the military before anyone else. Because without these critical components of society, there will be no one to oppress the poor and homeless in our utopian society that is free from the poor and homeless. Over the next 10 years, the disease runs its course while scientists realize the plague virus contains nanites, using an algorithm beyond the scope of human science. These nanites change and distort properties of the virus in carriers, similar to the way viruses sometimes mutate on their own, naturally, thus stymieing all but the most expensive vaccination efforts, because as we all know, the expense of the vaccine determines its actual efficacy. Lemuria suffers the most heavily. Nearly 2/5 of the population dies from exposure, or roughly 40% for those of you who are products of the public education system. Outbreaks on Lemuria last another 20 years, once again solving the poor and homeless problems. Nyssa and Vanger, given their proximity to the original outbreak, suffer heavy losses. Only the modular construction of the habitation structures helps to mitigate losses. Both colonies lose approximately 50% of their populations. Amphion, furthest from the outbreak, was able to contain spread of the disease as there was adequate time to develop a strategy before the outbreak. This strategy was mainly the wholesale murder of anyone coming from the other colonies. Potential outbreaks in Mayun and the Atlantean systems are largely averted through early warning and the fact that they're, 40 years away by the fastest ships? That's it for this episode, Space Cases. Next episode, we finally get into the juicy stuff, Civil War. Keep tuning in as we explore the mystery that is our history. Until next time, it's a cold universe out there, Space Cases, so stay warm and keep your zap gun handy.